with the good old Palantir. I know you have some questions for me on this one, and I can
Okay.
also ask you some questions. So go ahead. What do you got?
Palantir. Okay.
When are you
Palantir,
investing in
I love the
Palantir?
guy.
Let's start with that. When are you actually putting some money there?
So I did have Palantir. Actually, if you look at my old tweets, I was very bullish on Palantir.
Mm.
If you look for Palantir in my tweets, you feel like I was very bullish. It's just journey of investing, right? You invest long enough and you understand like what you are comfortable and what you're not. Like you go one direction, flip on the other direction. I'm not bullish on Palantir. That's my state right now. Right.
Right.
I'm looking to invest. I'm looking to invest, but every time I'm like, oh, this is good, and then I find something else bad, and which was good becomes a bad thing. Right. So that is like I'll give you an example. And correct me if I'm wrong. I might be totally wrong here. Like this is because I don't own it in my portfolio. I don't spend like too much time into it, right? Like because I don't own it in my portfolio, I don't keep up half much. I look at your podcast every now and then. I just like it. I like how you just describe everything. So it's good. Let's start with what I like about Palantir. I love their government business because it's hard to get in the government circles to get their business. Just love their government business. It's great. It's actually a bull case. Like use the cash flows from the government business and invest and grow in the private sector and grow as a company. Right. That was my bull case, right? That's great. So what happened was like initially Palantir was going after really big non-tech companies and completely becoming operationalizing data for the non-tech companies like BP or like all this big oil, Boeing, or Airbus, right? Airbus. That's actually really good because then your again R&D cost, your marketing cost is so optimized because you're getting all this cash flows from big companies, and you're focusing on solving these big problems, and that's great, right? And they were good 120% plus net dollar retention too, right?
That actually came down to like 107.
That is my bad case. They were printing. So and at that time my bad case was their software is so big, like it's a completely vertically integrated software, and it can be really well done for like the big companies, but they have to modularize it and sell it to smaller companies, which is what I was expecting them to do, right? Like they were talking about it. They were going to modularize all this big pieces of their software and then like go like big, like the wider part of the market, right? They were talking about it. I remember that. Right. I don't know what happened. Did they do it?
Well, in terms of, did they do what? In terms of getting to...
Did they start getting like the smaller companies? Like
yes, they have. I mean, for a fact, they definitely have, but it's not like penetration of like, getting into those companies that make, $100,000 a month. They're not at that level yet. Mm-hmm. In general, I think their NDR has gone down because the bigger guys, their average revenue per top 20 client has gone up, but the bigger guys, I guess, haven't been paying as much for the same stuff, which is where AIP is supposed to come in and fix that. But I agree. I mean, that is a bear case in terms of how much it's fallen as well.
Okay. And so their NDR going down. Yeah. So as soon as they projected for GAAP profitability, right? Yeah. So I liked it. And I was like, if they can maintain NDR while reducing or maintaining cost, that's how you get to GAAP profitability, right?
Correct.
And then that's great, right? But their NDR fell as they were going towards GAAP profitability, their NDR kept coming down.
Right.
Maybe they're not focusing on, and that's not even the bad part, right? Like, okay, sure, that happened, but they just took it up from their slide, man. Like they just put it in like the small, like footnote. I'm like, dude, come on, don't do that. Like, just give me
a little
10
shady.
metrics.
It's a little shady.
Yeah. So it's like, give me 10 metrics, good or bad. Just let me see it. That's okay. Whatever happens. Every company is not going to like go through this whole. All numbers are bullish. That's not going to happen. Just properly give me all the metrics and let me make it.
So is that part of the reason you turned bearish? Not just the NDR came down, but the hiding of the number from the.
I wouldn't call bearish. Like as you can see when I'm talking, like the management transparency and how they communicate is a big deal for me. Like I've mentioned that like 3 or 4 times, right? Like just with respect to Enphase or SoFi or even Shopify or like Amazon or that is the part which like kind of turned me off. And then I had to look more. Like now I have to like be even more careful. Like when is it all going to come back, right? So I still held it. I still held it in my retirement portfolio. I mean, it rallied to 18 or 17 or 18. I sold it off, right? So yeah, this is one of the reasons. And then modularizing, I didn't see any updates on that. Like I didn't see fast enough execution on that. Like, okay, you modularize, you told you were doing it. What happened to that? Did it happen or not? I don't know. Like, you told it happened, but I guess I didn't see it in the revenue coming up. And also like so their AIP is getting all this boot camp. That's really good. Like boot camp is going to get like more Foundry users coming. Do you think they have to build more stuff for all these people to use Foundry? Like they're saying that their boot camp, they're doing more in 1 quarter than 1 year or some crazy number, right? That's great. That's great. But from my understanding, Palantir software is great, but it's super customized to their big clients.
Yeah.
Do you think they have to put in more operational dollars to build more stuff to all these new clients coming and using AIP? Because from my understanding, AIP is actually like going to hook into Foundry, and like you need like kind of Foundry to use your AIP, right? Do you think and they did they say they were going to be GAAP profitable forever from now on?
Yeah,
like these are the 2 questions I had.
These are good questions. Number one, on GAAP profitability, yes. I mean, they said they're not going back. Yeah, if they do, I couldn't imagine that, given the growth is not there yet. So if they're not, unless they start growing at 40, 50%, then I think investors would be okay if they're not profitable for a little bit. But I don't think we're going back to that level, which kind of forces them to grow profitably, which I actually think is a really good thing over the next 8 quarters to see if they can do that. But in terms of AIP, from my understanding, AIP is actually making it so that they don't need to keep using these forward deployed engineers and deploying this kind of consulting model to make highly customized software, because AIP is a module inside of Foundry. So you have to buy Foundry if you're buying AIP. But the more you use AIP, like the more queries you type into the LLM, the more they charge you, because it's a kind of pay as you go, pay for compute type of process. And the AIP assistants are what technically replace the forward deployed engineer. That's what I've heard. So I don't think the FD has gone away yet, but the nature of spending 6 months with just one Palantir employee helping BP figure something out, that time to value is starting to decrease. My biggest question is, like, we only have 453 customers. It's Snowflake has 8,000, right? So where is that massive level of just like thousands and thousands? And that, I think, is what I would say for you. If we didn't have the government business, which is going to do 1.2 billion TTM, then we would be nothing, right? So I think that government business is what you're excited about, but the lack of sales penetration and distribution is what you're bearish about. My question is, do you think that's where the opportunity is? Or if they actually do figure out those thousands of customers, then it's a success story?
No, that's the thing. I want to think that's where the opportunity is. I want that alpha, right? But that's when like you look at management and say, have they done what they have told they're going to do? And that's where I'm like, not according to me just yet, but maybe from now on. That's where I'm stuck at. Like I do see that commercial as the alpha. Like I do see that as the big alpha there, right? If commercial was there, I would buy it. Like if I'm sure that's going to happen, I would buy it. And also I also look for like anecdotes, right? I'm also like in the Silicon Valley tech space where I talk to a lot of developers, I talk to a lot of software engineers, right? Literally everybody uses Snowflake, man. Like it's not even a joke. Literally everybody writes Snowflake queries, and middle management now has started writing Snowflake queries. Like, the exec levels and just below them, they are started writing Snowflake queries, right? So which is where my next question comes into the picture, right? Do you see any tech companies adopting Palantir? Until right now, I see a lot of non-tech companies adopting it, this legacy infrastructure, modernizing it. That's a huge opportunity by itself, right? But that's not going to create network effects, because you need everybody in the whole chain to adopt it, which creates network effects. And then like you form that network effects, and then you kind of like run the whole ecosystem on Palantir software, which is what my initial bull case was actually. Like, like when the big guys use it, their suppliers will use it, their suppliers will use it, and then you have this holistic view of your supply chain and like your vendor. It becomes this huge network where you cannot disrupt that because network effects are pretty good. But they never went downstream, or from what I could see, they couldn't or they didn't go downstream. What is your take on that? Do you? My question was, yeah, what is your take on
Got
that?
it. So they have gone downstream for some industries. So like for Airbus, for example, a lot of the airplane suppliers and then the subsidiary vendors have definitely used that, but that's one industry and that's been kind of old for the past couple of years. So I agree. That is my bull case, is that if they can vertically integrate across industries, then it becomes incredibly exciting. The partnership they have with Panasonic, the factory for the Tesla batteries in Sparks, Nevada, that's really exciting. And it begs the question, do all the subsidiary suppliers and vendors that worked with Panasonic to make the batteries, do they start using Palantir? I don't know yet, but that is where I think that bull case comes in. In terms of Snowflake, dude, from my understanding, it's a data lake house. That's why thousands of people use it.
It is.
Palantir is an ontology. We can go into all that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's just more analytical understandings of business intelligence versus the traditional data lake house. And I know Databricks is also competing massively in that data lake house space as well. From all the technical people I've talked to, even the ones that are bearish on Palantir, like I've actually had conversations with people that like they're bullish on the company, but they're just bearish on go-to-market, all that stuff. They've confirmed to me that it's night and day between them and Snowflake, because Palantir just offers a fundamentally differentiated product, and that's really exciting in terms of the use cases you could have for it versus just the lakehouse. The problem is not everyone needs that. Everyone does need a lakehouse, and I think it's kind of Palantir's market opportunity, which is why I think AIP has been such a big thing for them to be like, all right, maybe you guys thought you only needed a lakehouse, but now you definitely need operationalized AI and LLMs. But to use that, we'll give you Foundry, because you technically do need an ontology for those AI and LLMs to connect to an enterprise and make sense of it. And that's why I'm so excited. Because like not everyone needed a lake, and not everyone needed a lake house. Not everyone needed data analytics. And Snowflake offers a bunch of data analytics, so you could kind of get 2 for 1 there. But now if AIP is kind of the Trojan horse to get you to get all that other shit, along with Apollo, which is the simultaneous deployment of all your software at the edge, that is where there's a fucking bull case here. But they've got to capture that market. And if we have 4 or 5 quarters of sub 20% growth, it's a busted story. And that's the part that's scary, right?
Yeah. This is the part where it comes to Snowflake. Just FYI, I'm not bullish on Snowflake. I hate their expenses. Their stock-based compensation is high. They do so many acquisitions. I'm not too bullish on Snowflake. I'm actually, they're okay. I mean, their valuation is too high. I think they're very richly valued for what they are in terms of the tech, right? So why I keep bringing Snowflake is it's like the closest competitor in terms of what I could find. Maybe they're not even in different industries, but you have to compare with something to actually come up with your thesis, right? So that's why I'm talking about Snowflake a lot, right? So so there are 2 strategies that I can think of in general a SaaS company can do. One is go after really big businesses and build your net dollar retention and print money, and then invest aggressively to go into small businesses. This is the same dynamic as like the payment processors, AdGen and Stripe and all that stuff, right? Yeah. Or you go like invest initially to build like your platform and like burn a lot of money when you have a lot of VC money, grow aggressively on your bottom, but build nicely, and then go with the top, which eventually brings your cash flow later on. Like these are the 2 big, like you either go up market or you go down market, right? So the Palantir's thesis is like they're really done good in the up market, like the high non-tech operationalizing big industries, and I don't see them going down market just yet, or maybe they are and I don't see it. Maybe AIP will enable to go down market. But Snowflake is actually going up market. I can see that. They do report on their stable edge customers, which is like they have a data lake, and you have like something called as a stable edge, where each customer is sharing with their data for like their other, like they're sharing it with Snowflake so that they can use analytics on top of that, and they are building more value on top of their stable edge. You should go look it up. It's pretty cool. So I can see them very clearly reporting and clearly going up market. Like it's so obvious. And they have 8,000 customers. They're using data to actually build, like they are like seeing how they are all building their software, what they're all using it for, how they're all querying it for, what they are querying for. And they're building stuff based on that, based on those usage. they're actually building software on top of that. So I can clearly see them going up market. This is where I feel like, and also there is this developer ecosystem, which is like really, they really like it, man. People who write Snowflake queries, man, they love it. Like they just love it. I don't know. I mean, yeah. So I have a friend who's data analytics dude. He's like, yeah, he is so bullish on Snowflake because everybody is using it in his company. Like I cannot tell which company he works for. It's a big company. It's a very big company. All right. So this is where my contraction, like I see Snowflake going up market. I don't see Palantir coming down market or even coming in the circle of developer thoughts. Maybe it's not for that. Maybe it's for somebody else. Maybe it's for business intelligence people. Maybe I'm not talking to the right people. I do consider all this. I'm not saying I'm right. This is what I see anecdotally. So what is your take on that? How are they going to fix this, or like, are they already fixing it that I'm not aware of, other than say AIP?
So this is where I think like the qualitative due diligence makes so much sense, because when I watch these AIP conferences and I listen to HCA Healthcare or a Cleveland Clinic or a Canadian Pacific Railway, and they're talking about the use cases of how they're integrating the software, I cannot imagine these companies leaving the software. I mean, you know, we sound like a broken record, but there's a reason why the NHS paid $480 million to use Palantir software, and they didn't pay Snowflake. And that right there is the key difference. Like, they're not paying a data lakehouse to do this stuff. They're paying a fundamentally different tech company to try to build this stuff. And that goes into the government thesis as well. But like, when I see these companies and what they're saying they're getting the use cases from and how rapid the use cases are adopting, I mean, HCA has like, I don't know how many thousands of hospitals. They already have like 400 set up and ready to go in the past like 8 months. That is where I get very excited, because I'm like, well, they're never going to leave, and that NDR should start taking up. If they can solve top line growth, then there are going to be thousands and thousands of customers that never leave the product. And then on top of that, you look at the business. Palantir hasn't acquired a company since 2016. Snowflake acquired 4 companies last year. I mean, Karp said this on one of the earnings call. He said, we're a 20-year-old company. Why are we getting the best talent in the world? You know, I went to dinner with some Palantir employees the other day, and I was just asking them about like the culture of the company. And they're like, we laugh at the people that work at Google because you're optimizing ad clicks all day. We're fucking building, you know, and that's the type of culture you have inside of that company. To me, it's purely a question of top line growth, because as you said, they're trying to go downstream. They're trying to integrate even more deeply with these clients. They're powering 16% of hospital beds in the United States. That's insane, which means all the Concordance, Cardinal Health, Cleveland Clinic, all the different supply chain medical care companies, along with the academic institutions, Novartis doing AI discovery, 4th largest pharmaceutical company in the world. You put all these pieces together, and that's just one vertical is healthcare. The only thing that's missing is having 10,000 other hospitals, because they haven't solved growth. And so to me, I think the Palantir thesis, is it overvalued? Yes, because just in terms of the growth rate. But if the growth rate is solved, this is a generational company, in my opinion. But the biggest execution risk right now, especially at this multiple that investors are willing to pay, is that growth rate. Is it going to be solved?
Healthcare is a big market, man. Like this, like I am tracking that very closely. If you actually look at my work history, I actually worked for a US healthcare company, Cerner Healthcare. It's pretty big.
Oh, wow.
It's a competitor to Epic Healthcare, like, which is also a huge it's a huge legacy infrastructure. Epic Healthcare, Cerner Healthcare. This is like, I'm talking multi-billion dollars of revenue, right? Like it's pretty big. The EHR systems basically are like, I feel like Palantir can do the EHR systems better than these folks. These folks' software has not evolved for a very long time.
Right.
But I want to see that execution. I want to see it come on some like really like stuff like that, like aggressively, urgently executing towards all that. Like, you know, like just farming network effects, and like healthcare is great network effects, because like you go to one hospital and you get sick and you got shot, and if their data is in another hospital and you get like, it'll automatically be there if you're building an EHR, right? Like, and if Palantir can actually build on top of that, it's a great market to be in. But my question has always been, are they doing it? Because their focus was on something else 2 years back, then they've focused something else, then get profit. You know, the target keeps changing. Then there was this 2025 will be $4.5 billion or something, right? Like
I mean,
maybe they'll hit it.
I was looking at the earnings from 2020 last night, because I'm a fucking Palantir nerd, and in every earnings up until end of 2022 quarter 4, they kept reiterating 30% growth.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
But I think interest rates went up in 2023 dramatically, and I think that also is something we got to give them a little bit of grace for, right?
I would give them a little bit of grace for, but like as a management team, maybe they're tech guys, they don't understand macro fully well. I don't know, man. Like, but they do need to. I do expect my management to understand, look at the macro and kind of like project based on
But
that.
don't you think
Like,
that them transitioning to that
as smart.
profitability, don't you think the pivot to profitability was a macro decision, right?
It is. But like I said, like my after they pivoted, my again, what I look for changed, right? Can they control the operational expenses while going down market, which is unheard of, dude, in SaaS, right? Like, if they can do that, that's crazy, because they've already built out all the software there is, and now I just need to scale.
Right.
Then you don't need any OpEx. You already built the software, right? Like, that's great. If they do that, that's amazing, right? They keep GAAP profitability and they keep growing EPS while going down market. If that happens, I'm coming back in, right? But I need to see that happen. That's like, their focus kept shifting, like, and that is the issue. Like, you look at like SoFi is SPAC deck. Like, they went SPAC. Literally every SPAC company which went SPAC, those SPAC filings, that's like the most craziest shit numbers you can put, and you won't get into trouble. Right? You look at SoFi SPAC tech, and they actually hit all their numbers until all the way till 2023.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right on that.
I was so surprised. I was like, dang, these people actually hit all their numbers in 3 years, and they had a student loan completely getting wrecked during that time.
Yeah, that's fair. I think both of us agree. If Palantir figures, I'm willing to bet on them before the top line growth. You're waiting, which is reasonable.
Yeah, I see. I need to see some more. Just, I'm not willing to give the management credit yet. That's it. That's all.